Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and it has been a while. It's been, I think, over a month since I last uploaded a video. And yeah, there's multiple reasons why I didn't film and upload. I don't really want to get into it. Mostly it was just me not having time or me not feeling like filming. And so I didn't film. But today I just came back from vacation, and for some reason I just really felt like sitting down and filming again. So that is what I'm doing right now. And I'm going to tell you what I read back in March. So today's video is a very, very late March wrap up. And so yeah, let's get into it. I have 6 books that I want to talk about. And I don't have any nonfiction still. I need to get behind that, since, you know, one of my goals for 2022 was to read 6 nonfiction. I have started 3 by now. I have finished none of them. So yeah, still no nonfiction. So as always, we will start with talking about the rereads that I finished in March. And for that, I only have one, and that is The Name of All Things by Janet Lyons, which is the 2nd book in the A Chorus of Dragons series. I am currently still hosting a read-along for this series. Currently we're reading the 4th book to prepare for the publication of the 5th book, which I think should be in about 10 days-ish. And so I'm very excited for that. This I was supposed to finish in February. I only finished it in March. And even if you still want to jump in and join us in the read-along, you still can. Do not worry. All the chats are still pretty active, and every now and again we do get new people joining us. But what is this series about? This series is kind of hard to explain. It's very queer, adult, epic high fantasy. And in the 1st book we follow Kieran, who discovers that he is heir to one of the royal houses in his empire. And actually the story is told in a kind of unique way, because at the very beginning of the story we meet Kieran, and he is a prisoner, and he and his prison guard take turns telling Kieran's life story and how he ended up in the position that we discover him in at the very beginning of the book. So that is book 1. Book 2 actually follows different characters. However, once again we have 2 characters taking turns telling a story, although this time the story is told to Kieran, so he does appear once again. And yeah, I love this series. I enjoyed my reread of the 2nd book so much more than the first time I read this book. The first time I read this, I gotta be honest, I was a little bit disappointed, because I fell in love with Kieran so much, and I fell in love with all the characters that we meet in the 1st book, and the 2nd book mostly follows different characters, and even Kieran we don't get to see that much of. And so when I read this for the first time, there was just a little bit of a disappointment, because I wanted to know more about the characters that I had already grown to love in the 1st book. But we meet new characters in the 2nd book. However, now in a reread, since I now do already love the characters from the 2nd book as well, I just enjoyed it so much more. And to be honest, from a technical point, writing standpoint, I do think that the 2nd book is a better book. So definitely, if you're just a little bit iffy on the 1st book after having finished the 1st book, continue on with at least book 2. And I guess if you then don't enjoy it, this is not the series for you. But anyway, that is it for the one reread that I had in March. Continuing on, I am now, as always, going to talk about the books in order in which I enjoyed them. So starting with the book that I enjoyed the least in March, and that was Lord of Snow and Shadows, which is the 1st book in the Tears of Artemis series by Sarah Ashe. And I have to be honest, I enjoyed it so little that I already kind of pushed aside why I didn't enjoy it and why I didn't like it. So I only have a few things to say about this. Hopefully I'll be quick. But first of all, this was a buddy read for me, which I really don't like, because for some reason when I don't enjoy a buddy read, it always makes me even more sad than if I don't enjoy a book that I just read on my own. But I don't know if I want to continue on with the buddy read as well. We had originally planned to read the entire series, but now I don't know, and I still it's a whole thing. But anyway, this series follows Gabriel, who one day discovers, after a bunch of strange men come to his home, that he is heir to a kingdom. And he is also heir to the burning blood of the dragon warrior known as Drakaul, which is this kind of entity, demon type thing that is part of the reason why the kingdom that he is now heir to has been safe for a long time. And so his father just died, so he now has to ascend the throne. And the way he ascends the throne isn't because he wants to, but because his father's men come to his home, which is somewhere in the south of this world, and literally kidnap him because he doesn't want to go along with them. And so he is then thrown into intrigues because his father has been murdered, so he has to find out who murdered his father and he has to take a revenge. However, he didn't really care about his father because he obviously didn't know his father, because his mom took him with her when he was still a baby, so why would he take revenge? And it's a whole thing. And then there's also, you know, wider world politics coming into it as well. The main reason why I did not enjoy this book is because, simply put, this book has an over-reliance of every single character being stupid as fuck and incompetent and being whiny and just always making the stupidest decision possible. Is stupidest the word? It is now. Anyway, I just didn't enjoy it. However, it was a fast enough read, so I'm kind of still debating whether or not I want to continue on and see if it gets any better. But yeah, it just overall was a disappointment. Continuing on, I have the next two books in the Anita Blake Vampire Huntress novels. Actually, the second book I read in the series I enjoyed less than Lord of Snow, not in Snow and Ash, Snow and Shadows, Shadows and Snow, the book I just talked about. But this one I enjoyed slightly more, so I thought I'd put it here as a whole, because I didn't want to talk about the two books separately, because it wouldn't make sense to talk about a later book in the series before I talk about an earlier book in the series. Can you tell that I have not filmed in a while and cannot stop myself from rambling? Anyway, I read the, I think, 24th and 25th book in Anita Blake Vampire Huntress series. This was the series that I picked from my series TBR chart for March, and so I continued on. Mostly the series follows Anita Blake, who, oh surprise, is a vampire hunter. And mostly at the very beginning of the series, it works as a kind of procedural crime mystery series where Anita Blake works as a consultant for the local preternatural crime unit, and she also kills vampires because in this world, well, in this series, vampires are already out in the open. It's kind of a True Blood type deal and they're legal and so on. However, as the series goes on, it more and more focuses on the many relationships Anita Blake has. In between, it was just a pure smut fest, like 300 pages of a book and 250 of them were just smut. And I swear I'm not exaggerating. But now it has calmed down a little bit again. There's like 2 to 3 smut scenes per book. Although this one had like only 1.5. And it mostly, once again, either follows a specific crime, which was the second book that I read in the series this month, which was Crimson Death, by the way. I think I haven't mentioned it yet. This one is Dead Eyes. However, this one has a setup of a crime, and then we only follow the crime the first 50 pages of the book and the last 50 pages of the book, and in between is relationship drama. Literally just relationship drama, because Anita Blake has like 5 boyfriends? 10? I don't know. She has a lot of boyfriends and also some girlfriends by now. But anyway, I can't talk that much about my feelings of this series because I honestly don't even know why I still continue on with it, aside from the fact that there's 3 books left published, and I have read this series since I was 14 by now, so over 10 years. So damn it, I want to finish it. It's like, I've already read 26 of the books, 25 of the books. How bad can it be to read the last 3? Anyway, that's part of the reason why I'm still continuing on. And then the other part is that this is the one series that I would call a guilty pleasure series, because I don't think it's well written. I think there's quite a bit of problematic stuff. That's actually the reason why I really didn't enjoy Crimson Death, because oh my god, if I have to read the sentence, he is 100% bisexual or he is the most truly bisexual person that I know, then I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think it was lucky that I read it online, otherwise I would have smashed the book through my room. By the way, with truly bisexual, what the author means is that this person does not have a preference for men or women, because we all know bisexuals who have a preference aren't truly bisexual, right? Anyway, so actually these books annoy me quite a lot, but at the same time they're like a bad drug for me, where I just can't stop reading them because they're so bad. And so yeah, anyway, moving on to the next book, because I think I have spent too much time on these books already. The second to last book I have is Afterlives by Abdul Razak Gurna, which is one of his most recent publications, I believe. This was published in 2020, and he of course won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2021. And so this was the book that I picked up because this is set in Tanzania, or the start of this book is set in Tanzania under German colonial rule, and it's set at the beginning of the 20th century, so kind of starting just before the First World War, or starting around just after 1900, and then going within the narration, within what the narrator tells us, until after the Second World War, although the First World War is mostly what this book focuses on. And so the reason why I wanted to pick this up is just because there's two elements coming together. First of all, I think when we talk about colonial rule in Africa, we mostly talk about the French and the British, and we kind of sometimes ignore the German colonial rule and also the atrocities committed by the German colonial rule. And then second, while I don't usually enjoy fiction or historical fiction set during the world wars, I have found that I am quite interested when I read books centering the world wars that aren't set in Europe or don't necessarily center European voices. And this one is obviously set in Africa. It's set in Eastern Africa, in Tanzania. It follows soldiers who fight for the Germans during the First World War, and it's just a part of history, just like German colonial rule, that is easily and often ignored. Just, you know, there's a reason why these wars were called world wars, and part of the reason is because the fighting wasn't just in Europe, but there was a lot of fighting in Africa, there was a lot of fighting in Asia in the case of the Second World War. I'm not quite sure in the case of the First World War. And so yeah, that's what this book is about. Now, in terms of my thoughts, it's like a solid 3 stars. I enjoyed it from a historical perspective, or enjoyed is maybe the wrong word, but you know, I was interested from a historical perspective and also from a narrative perspective. But in terms of the writing itself, I found it to be a bit dry in between, and I didn't necessarily enjoy it overly much. However, what this book definitely did make me do is it made me want to research more into, you know, African history during the 2 world wars. So yeah, that's a positive thing. And the last book I want to talk about is the second 5-star read I had so far this year, and that is the little novel short story of Galatea by Madeline Miller, which is her most recent publication. It's only 50 pages long, and those pages obviously, you know, they don't have a lot of writing on them, but this story is absolutely beautiful. Once again, what else do we expect from Madeline Miller? This is a retelling of Galatea. I don't remember, is the play called Galatea as well? You know, it's about the story of the sculptor who makes a sculpture that is so beautiful that he asks Aphrodite, I think, to give the sculpture life. And so Madeline Miller set out, when she went to retell the story, to give this sculpture not just life but also a voice, because that is something that is always missing in all the iterations, or in a lot of the iterations. And so we follow Galatea, who is a woman who, by her husband, has been sent to a psychiatric hospital and has been interned, detained in a psychiatric hospital. And yeah, if you have read any Madeline Miller, it's like all Madeline Miller. It's beautifully written, beautiful language. It's giving voice to a woman who has been voiceless so far in narrations, or in a lot of narrations. And yeah, I love it. It's 50 pages long. I don't have that much to say about it. It's gorgeous. Go and read it. You can read it in half an hour, easy. So that was it for my March wrap up. If you have read any of the books or have any thoughts on any of the books, leave those thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media, as well as all the links to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, where read one adult high fantasy book written by a woman or genderqueer person per month, will be left link down below. The Discord for the book club is also where I'm doing the buddy read along for A Chorus of Dragons, if you're still interested in joining us. And yeah, with all of that said, I hope this time around I'll see you sooner than last time. Bye!